What if the Greek plan happened? In our own timeline, Catherine the Great, Tsarina of Russia, was very much obsessed with ancient Rome and Greece to an unnormal level. For example, after she conquered the Crimean Khanate, she gave the cities their Greek names like Mariupol or Sevastopol, or renamed Kajabi to Odessa. But her ambitions didn't end there, as she wanted to restore the Byzantine Empire. No, this is not a joke. She even envisioned her grandson, fittingly named Constantine, to be its emperor. In 1791, she formalized an alliance with the Austrian Habsburg regarding the partition of the Ottoman Balkan possessions. Serbia, Montenegro, and Albania would have gone to Austria, while the Greek Empire would be formed in Greece, Macedonia, and Bulgaria. Lastly, the Romanian principalities and Dobruja would become Dacia, named after the ancient Dacian kingdom. Venice was also supposed to get Morea, Crete, and Cyprus. But this plan didn't do anywhere, as Austria and Russia couldn't agree with the details, and with Austria underperforming and having to leave the conflict. In the end, Russia only got Judizin, and would then have to focus its attention on revolutionary France. And after the dust was settled, the balance of power created after Napoleon didn't allow for Russia to take the entire Balkan for themselves. But what if that didn't happen? What if the Greek plan succeeded? In this timeline, Russia and Austria are able to come to an agreement, and a war is declared on the Ottoman Empire in August 1787. The Kolshan manages to get naval superiority, but the war on land is much slower, with the Kolshan advancing slowly, but steadily, but with Russia doing better than its Austrian ally. After 4 years of sluggish fighting, they reach the outskirts of Constantinople, and after another half a year the city is captured, ending the war in January 1792. In the Treaty of Constantinople, Venice gets Morea, Crete and Cyprus, Austria gets Bosnia, Serbia, Montenegro, and Albania, Russia gets Yedicin, and establishes Dacia and the Greek Empire. The Greek Empire would be led by Constantine as either Constantine I or Constantine XII, if they consider it as a continuation of the Byzantine Empire, but given his age, a regency would initially be in charge. However, I'm not sure who'd rule Dacia. Nonetheless, both Greece and Dacia are under firm Russian control. This would massively weaken the Ottoman Empire, as they'd be kicked out of the Balkans, and be only left with the Middle East and North Africa, but worst, they'd lose Constantinople and would probably have to go to Bursa. In 1789 the French Revolution would still have happened, and in 1792, the year the conflict ended, the War of the First Coalition broke out, taking much of Europe's focus. The Napoleonic Wars would be largely the same in this timeline, but changes would start to appear in the Congress of Vienna. Since Austria and especially Russia are stronger in this timeline, the other powers need to be compensated as well to keep the balance of power. Firstly, Russia wouldn't be able to get all of Poland, and instead the territorial division, following the Third Partition of Poland, would be upheld. Austria would be able to annex Venetia and Dalmatia, but its possessions in the Ionian Islands, Morea, Crete, and Cyprus neither went to Austria nor Greece, but the British, to massively weakening Russian power projection in the Mediterranean Sea. In Italy, it is possible that Parma, Modena, and Lucca go to Savoy to act as a buffer against Austria, with only Tuscany being aligned to Austria, but with them not sharing a border, that influence is much weaker. Lastly, in Germany, it is possible that in order to weaken Austria's position, the German Confederation could be weaker, or Prussia could annex Saxony. Russia would probably not like the outcome of this Congress of Vienna, as in their eyes the other powers conspired against them, with Russia being forced to withdraw out of Poland. Assuming his character doesn't change and he rules the Greek Empire like he did Poland, Constantine would be a harsh ruler that often clashes with the locals. This could make his rule uneasy, but for as long as Russia is making sure that they keep the Greek Empire. Another issue would be that the empire is split between Greeks and Bulgarians, which would be a topic of contention, especially with the rise of nationalism. South Slavic nationalism was already crippling for the Austrians in our own timeline, but with the addition of Montenegro and Serbia, it'd be much worse, and the empire could eventually collapse. The Ottoman Empire, meanwhile, would not be in a good place, and I could see its collapse in the 1820s or 1830s. The European powers would meet once more to secure a balance of power. The Greek Empire would expand into the Aegean coastline in Anatolia, which includes cities like Bursa and Smyrna. The Russian Empire meanwhile expands into the Pontus and Armenia. The Qajars who were in a war with the Ottomans would secure themselves Mesopotamia, and Egypt under Muhammad Ali Pasha gains its independence. Both Egypt and Persia would fall into the British sphere of influence. In North Africa, France annexes Algiers and Tunis under Al-Hussein II ibn Mahmud, and Tripolitania under Yusuf Karamanli become French clients. The Ottoman Empire would only be left with central Anatolia, and while independent would have to contend with both British and Russian aims. With that, the old Ottoman Empire would be essentially gone and replaced by other powers like the British and Russians. At this point, the Greek Empire on its own could probably take down the Ottomans. But this also destabilizes it further, as for one, with the addition of so many Greeks, Bulgarians might be more anxious about their position in the empire, and for second, Russia isn't seen as a protector anymore, since the Ottomans don't pose a threat anymore, and thus Russia might be seen as an occupier. In 1848, revolutions would still hit Europe, and nobody is hit as hard as Austria. Whereas in our own timeline Russia helped out Austria, I think here Russia might use the chaos to increase its sphere. Russia would annex Galicia. Russia would also help Serbian rebels to create an independent Serbian kingdom, one that includes Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia and Albania, but also Banat, Dalmatia and Croatia, Slavonia. Dacia would get the Principality of Transylvania and Bukovina. Hungary would become independent state, and it is likely that they'd have irredentist claims against Dacia and Serbia. In Italy, with the collapse of Austria, Sardinia establishes itself as the master of the peninsula and forms the Kingdom of Italy. Lastly, in Germany, it is possible with the sudden rise of Russia and total collapse of Austria that King Frederick Wilhelm IV accepts the German crown, forming the German Empire more than 2 decades earlier than in our own timeline, and it is possible that Austria, which is now just a rump state, joins the German Empire. With the dust settled, a new balance of power emerges in Europe. Russia is now in a hegemonic position in Eastern Europe. In Central Europe stands a big German empire, and in the south an Italian state would be formed. Tensions are rising fast in Europe. The anti-Russian coalition would definitely include the United Kingdom, Germany and Hungary. Even though Germany is a potential threat to European balance of power, Russia is undoubtedly the greater threat for the British. For Germany, they border Russia and would be an eventual target for Russia, especially with how many Poles they have. Hungary also borders Russia and seeks to regain its claimed territories held by Russia's allies. On the pro-Russian side there is only Italy, as they'd have irredentist claims against the German Empire, namely South Tyrol and Istria. France under Napoleon III would join later on to either expand into the Rhineland or avenge Napoleon's defeat in Russia. I'll split this video now into 2 parts, one in which France joins Russia and one in which France joins the Anglo-German alliance. In the first timeline, as war breaks out in Europe sometime in the 1850s or 1860s, France joins the war on the side of Russia. Germany and the United Kingdom would be surprised, and France quickly pushes the Germans to the Rhine River, threatening their industry there. Germany would be forced to send a lot of forces west, and this allows Russia to get the initiative. In the Balkans, Russia didn't even have to intervene all that much, as its allies and a Slovak national uprising crippled Hungary, with only remnants holding put west of the Danube thanks to German help. In the south, Italian and Serbian actions would see them connect their front line in Istria, cutting Germany off of the sea. After possibly years of sluggish warfare, Germany would have to surrender, and soon later the United Kingdom signs an armistice. Hungary would lose more of Transylvania to Romania and pre-merge to Serbia. Russia would annex Ruthenia, and Slovakia would be separated under a Russian prince, with Russia also vassalizing Hungary. Regarding Germany, France annexed lands up to the Rhine, Italy annexes South Tyrol and Istria, Serbia annexes Slovenia, and Russia annexes Poland and Prussia, and formerly mentioned Slovak state unites with Czechia, while Denmark gets back Schleswig-Holstein. The rest of Germany would be split into puppets, with Austria becoming an Italian vassal, Bavaria, Westphalia and Hanover becoming French vassals, and Prussia a Russian one. It was also agreed that Italy gets to annex Rome for limited gains in Germany. Lastly, the Ottoman rump state becomes officially a Russian vassal. In this timeline, France and Russia would be the hegemons of Europe, and it is likely that at one point a war between Russia on one side and France, and Britain on the other breaks out, but I can't tell for sure who'd win it. In the second timeline, France either remains neutral or joins the war on the Anglo-German side against Russia. Italian hopes for empire would be quickly dashed as Russia is not able to help them out and they get crushed by their northern neighbors. A British blockade would massively weaken the Greek Empire and landings along the coast would quickly lead to its demise, soon followed by Serbia and Dacia. After years of brutal conflict, Russia too would have to surrender, ending the war. Italy would be carved up, with France annexing Nice and Savoy and puppeting Piedmont, Sardinia, while Germany puppets Lombardy, Venetia, Modena, Parma and Tuscany. France would help the Papal State to regain its lost territories, and the British prop up an ally in two Sicilies. Hungary would annex Transylvania, Banat and Croatia, Slavonia. Serbia would also be forced to release an Albanian state, severely diminishing the state. The Greek Empire under Constantine II would be disestablished. Its Anatolian holdings go to the Ottoman Empire, the British take Constantinople for themselves, and Bulgaria and Greece would get their independence. Russia would lose Galicia to Germany, which probably becomes a puppet together with New East Prussia and South Prussia. Germany also forms a puppet in Lithuania and Livonia. In the south, the Ottomans regain eastern Anatolia, and they and the Qajars expand into the Caucasus. Lastly, Finland gets split of either as an independent state, or unite with Sweden-Norway into a Nordic union. Here Russia was weakened but not too much, as a balance of power between France, Germany, and Russia sets in, with neither being strong enough to tail down the other two. In this timeline, the Ottoman Empire would be massively crippled and limited to just Anatolia, while Russia would be a rising star, and their rise either ends or accelerates after the First World War. The Greek Empire meanwhile spans most of the southern Balkans and Aegean Sea. If you liked the episode, leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe. Goodbye.